In looking through the agenda, I was pleased to see a whole variety of organisations in different sectors, not just focusing on the technology side of DAM, but the creative side of DAM as well. Here were a few key concepts that cropped up as I was reading through the agenda that really inspired me to want to be part of this event. Firstly, we've got the idea of evolution, how a dam changes and shifts. It's never static. It's an organic thing. Then we have the concept of communication, where we communicate with our peers and with our vendors and with our users, our stakeholders. It's a very key thing and something that I'm sure the speakers will want to share their stories on as well. Another theme that crops up over and over again in DAM is collaboration. And today you're going to hear from a variety of speakers from different sectors in different industries, talking about how they've collaborated with their stakeholders to ensure that their DAM process continues to teach and they continue to learn about the benefits of DAM. A few more other concepts that I'm particularly interested in today: user experience. Obviously, a DAM is designed for people to be able to use, and we always have a user-focused approach when we're working with DAM. So I'm sure today, throughout all of the speaking sessions, we're going to hear about the user experience and the impact that the DAM has had on that. Not only are we thinking about the people side of DAM and the way that users and stakeholders interact with DAM, we also think about the strategy, the workflow, and the business needs. And this is something that I'm sure many of you here today are very keen to learn about in terms of getting buy-in for a new DAM or just optimizing and maximizing the DAM that you have. We also have key themes around integration, agility, and of course, my favorite, creativity. How can we use a DAM to inspire users to want to use it more? Creativity is a key theme running throughout all of today's presentations. So as I say, just to reiterate, the whole of today is not just about the what and the how, but the why. And I think this is going to be a very, very exciting series of sessions for you all today. So as I say, make sure you chat with your fellow attendees. You can use the Q&A panel on the right-hand side. You can navigate to the lounge, and you can do some real-time networking in there with your peers. Henry Stewart can help you at any point if you use the chat bot on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. And now I'm delighted to introduce our first speaker, Gordon McKie. Gordon is Director of Digital Experience at Hilton, and he's going to take us through the nitty-gritty of change management and the role of DAM. Where should we go from here? Gordon, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Clemency, and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. For those of you who've maybe looked at a previous version of the programme today, you may have been expecting to hear from Alison Friel. Unfortunately, Alison had a family emergency, and so I have the honour to be here today to talk to you about digital asset management at Hilton. My name is Gordon McKie, and as Clemency said, I lead Hilton's digital experience team. We are responsible for storytelling across our digital channels and building digital experiences that excite and inspire our guests about their next Hilton stay. To do that, we are heavily dependent on great digital assets and the really important role that our digital asset management team play. In my prior role at Hilton, I led our content platforms team, and I had business ownership of our content technology, including the CMS and DAM. So while I am no longer personally in the day-to-day of DAM, it is still a subject that is very near and dear to my heart. Just to give you all a quick introduction to Hilton, I think some of these numbers highlight the scale and scope of the content challenge that we face. We have 19 hotel brands, ranging from our oldest flagship brand, Hilton Hotels and Resorts, to our most recent brand, Spark by Hilton, which actually launched just 1 week ago today, and we don't yet have any hotels trading in that brand. Our brands range the full gamut from our high-end luxury hotel brands such as Waldorf Astoria and Conrad through to our mid-market economy brands such as Hampton and True. All hotels in those brands add up to a little over 7,000 hotels, selling over 1 million room nights every night of the year. And that's across 123 countries, which introduces another interesting dimension to our content challenge when we factor in things like translation, localization, legal and compliance issues, and making sure that our content and imagery is relevant to each market we work in. We do that for 146 million members of our loyalty program every year. And supporting all of that is a digital asset library of some near 600,000 assets. A question we're often asked at Hilton is, does Airbnb keep you up at night? Disruptors and commoditization are some of the biggest challenges facing every company in the industry right now, and hospitality is certainly no exception. However, at Hilton, we are firmly focused on our core mission of hospitality. We are a business of people serving people, and today's customers are looking for great experiences. And those experiences are made up of every interaction that a customer has with your brand, not just when they're consuming your product or staying at your hotel. And some research from PwC actually backs that up. In fact, customers are willing to spend more for a great customer experience. And in the hotel category, they're willing to spend up to 14% of a premium for a great experience. And I'm sure I don't need to tell this audience that a great customer experience starts with great digital assets. Particularly so in our industry, in the hotel industry, we are a very visual business. Think about the last time you booked a hotel. Would you have booked if you hadn't seen photography or video of the room, the leisure facilities, or the bars and restaurants? And of course, in order to effectively manage assets for over 7,000 hotels, we need a DAM. And Hilton has been on an interesting and exciting journey with digital asset management over the past few years. Prior to 2017, we had a fairly basic DAM. It was part of our old web CMS product suite. It was used almost exclusively by our content publishing team for Hilton.com. And like many DAMs of its type, it was very web-centric. It had lots of duplicate assets to handle specific web renditions. And it was almost exclusively photography with just maybe a few logos. In 2017, we decided it was time to move to a truly enterprise-wide omni-channel DAM. And as you can see in the years since, while our company has certainly grown and we've opened a significant number of properties around the world, our digital asset library has grown even more. We've more than doubled our library of assets. And as you can see, it's not just the number of assets, but also the type of assets too. So while we started off almost exclusively with photography only, today we're managing a much more complex library of graphic design assets, multimedia such as video and virtual tours, and collateral. And while growing our asset library is great, asset volume alone is not enough. We've also been very focused in the past few years in building out our technology capability too. We've been progressively adding features and upgrading our technology over the last few years to drive these 4 key areas. We want to aid collaboration across the enterprise, making it easy for everyone at Hilton to find, use, and contribute assets. And to do that, we've been building out the right set of search capabilities, as well as standing up new features such as curated collections of assets so that everybody can find the best asset for whatever it is they're working on. We've put a lot of thought into governance, so we're not just getting more assets, but also better assets too, and ensuring that everyone has clarity around licensing and rights management. And of course, metadata standards are critical to that, so that we have the right visibility around what assets that we have, where we might have gaps in our asset library, and what assets we have that are approved for different channels like web, social, email, or print. Distribution capability has been an essential part of Hilton's success with them. In our industry in particular, we work closely with online travel agents such as Expedia and Booking.com, who want access to our assets and content. We work with a partner called Ice Portal, who are directly integrated and connected to our DAM, and they distribute photography on our behalf to over 5,000 channels. And that replaces a lot of legacy FTPs and manual processes that we used to manage. We've also connected to Akamai and Cloudinary internally at Hilton to handle asset renditioning for our own channels, such as Hilton.com, which means we no longer have 40 versions of the same asset in the DAM, so no more duplicates clogging up the system. And finally, we've integrated with our DAM with our CMS, our email platform, our social listening platform, and print collateral tool. So it truly becomes a single source of truth for all assets at Hilton. And the mapping to each of those systems and channels is driven by metadata in our DAM. The integration the team and I are probably most proud of is our integration with ServiceNow. We use ServiceNow as a content ticketing platform for all of our hotels around the world. So they can submit content changes and new photography to our content team for review, approval, and publication. In fact, we receive around 5,000 tickets for image changes comprising over 50,000 assets each and every year. And before that integration, the team had to manually download each file from the ticket, manually upload that file to the DAM, and then apply the metadata. Now that we have that integration in place, the team can review the images directly in ServiceNow, deselect any images that don't meet those standards, and then hit a button to automatically upload to the DAM and apply that metadata that the hotel has entered on the ticket. And that has reduced our image processing and publishing times by over 40% alone. Just to highlight a couple of other features in our DAM that have really improved the way we work with assets at Hilton. The first is our use of curated photography collections in our DAM. So these are curated collections of assets, the best of the best photography that we have. Many different parts of our business want to use photography of some of our stunning hotels that you see here on the screen for landing pages, for emails, for print collateral, or indeed for presentations like this one. But with a library of over 600,000 assets, many people just didn't even know where to start, even with the best search capabilities. So we set up a number of these curated collections within our DAM that are static collections. We choose the images that meet the right criteria to go into these collections. And these are really our best of the best photographs for use as hero assets on campaigns and collateral. We've created a number of these for specific topics or themes, such as spa, all-inclusive, beach resorts, or centered around some of our hotel brands. So if you're looking for the best Waldorf Astoria photography, you can easily and quickly find what you need. Everyone loves this feature because it makes it so much easier to go in and find an amazing asset or whatever it is that they are working on. Another example of a DAM feature that has really changed the way we work is our entity and metadata model. All of our property photography is associated to a hotel entity in our DAM. That not only makes it easier for our users if they're looking for photography for a specific hotel, it also means that we can easily distribute photography for a specific hotel to another channel or system. Our metadata model allows for smart and effective distribution of assets, so we can make sure that each channel or system gets exactly what they need. Several of the online travel agents that I mentioned actually create a scorecard for every one of our hotels based on the number and type of assets that they receive for that hotel. They've defined minimum standards for the number of assets for different parts of the hotel, such as rooms, spa, pools, and restaurants. And that score actually impacts how far up the search results that hotel displays on that site. Before we implemented this distribution model with our DAM, our average image quality score across all of our hotels was 67%. By getting this metadata model right, we were then able to get the data that we needed to find out where the gaps are, where the opportunities are. We then could educate our hotel team members around the world and work with partners across Hilton to bring our score all the way up to 95%. So we went from a fairly middling C grade all the way to a pretty solid A. And I think that's a great example of how something like asset metadata can give us the insights that we need to drive real commercial performance for our company. So having said all that, I think it's fair to ask, how well have we actually done? Well, on the technology side, we've come a long way in the past few years. We have a great foundation that's driving real efficiencies for our business, and it's allowing us to effectively distribute photography, not only internally at Hilton, but also to all of the external channels and partners that we work with. However, something of a side effect of us being so laser focused on technology capabilities these past few years is that broader adoption across the enterprise isn't where it needs to be. In fact, just last month, I was in a meeting with someone from our sales team who's leading a project that requires a lot of photography and video for our portfolio of luxury hotels. And they said, do you know, wouldn't it be great if we had a central place, some kind of system where we could store and find all of these assets, which I'm not sure if anyone else has had discussions like that in their organizations, but for me personally, it was a little bit of a facepalm moment, but also an aha moment. There are so many departments at Hilton that use digital assets and could benefit from working more closely with our digital asset management tool. We have a spa and wellness division, sales, recruitment, food and beverage teams, our hotel architecture, construction and design teams, all use and work with digital assets and would benefit from using the DAM. But when we look at it, in reality, most of our users today sit within the marketing and loyalty teams, social, technology and digital. So the teams that work with assets pretty much on a constant basis every single day. The teams that maybe use assets more sparingly still aren't using the DAM. This is where the importance of change management really comes in. When we first launched our DAM, we did the normal thing that you do when you launch new technology in an organization, and we conducted a series of roadshows and webinars to introduce the platform to the business. But unfortunately, change management isn't an event, it's a process. Hilton is a big organization. People move around, people leave, people join, and also, frankly, people forget about that webinar that they attended a couple of summers ago. So we've realized that it's important to continually beat the drum and remind people of the benefits of using the DAM. And it's important that as we do that, that we try and win over fans and not simply compel users. It would be easy for us to issue an edict that says, we have a DAM, you must use it, and here's a 20-page PDF on how to upload assets and add metadata. But if we really want to be successful, we need people to become fans of using the DAM over other methods so that they too become ambassadors for the cause. And I think the way that we do that is by understanding people's problems and understanding their needs and trying to help them solve problems. We still have pockets of teams around Hilton that use Dropbox or other file sharing tools, partly because it's the way they've always done it, partly because they think it's just an easier way to share assets. And actually, if you ask some smart and pointed questions like, well, what happens if someone leaves? Do you lose access to those assets? And that does happen a lot. And then by demonstrating how different features in the DAM, such as search or collections or the distribution capabilities we built, it can help them realize how the DAM can actually solve some of those problems better than some of the other tools that they're perhaps more comfortable with. And finally, we haven't forgotten about technology. This year, we're focusing a lot on things like automation, artificial intelligence, and visual recognition technology, and how those can help speed up our processes, such as the automated application of metadata and taxonomy, or looking at how AI can help us with more automated image quality scoring. And that's work that we're really excited about, because if we do that correctly, it will free up our team's time to focus on some of these other areas and help bang that PR drum for DAM right across Hilton. So let me leave you with this thought. Changing technology is easy. And I know it doesn't always feel that way. In fact, it can very often feel like the difficult part, filled with lots of challenges and setbacks and unexpected issues to work through, which is why the default is to always spend so much time and focus on the technology. And by saying that changing technology is easy, I don't mean to in any way undermine or underestimate the often phenomenal amount of work that goes into changing and managing technology changes. But once the code is built and the issues have been resolved and the technology is launched, it does exactly what you expect it to do, or at the very least, what it was built to do. But how often have you been involved in a technology project where there's maybe a few lines towards the bottom of a project plan, or a couple of cards on a Kanban board that said things like draft launch email or deliver training webinar? And once those things were done, there's a big green complete in the change management column. The reality is change management will never really be done, and we should instead think about it as a core part of our roles. Now, if you're sitting there thinking that this is a familiar problem for you too, I'll leave you with this thought. We've just started a new year. Make a New Year's resolution today. Do one thing each month in 2023 to help grow and develop your DAM user community. You could send out a survey, start a monthly user clinic, host a focus group, start a Did You Know email series highlighting how your DAM can help solve problems for different parts of your business, or set up a meeting with a part of your business that isn't currently using your dam but could. There's so many possibilities, and I'd love to hear if anyone else has other suggestions on what they're doing to help grow adoption of their dam at their companies. I think it's a great muscle for us as dam practitioners to build to help the rest of our organisations fully realise the power of digital asset management. And thank you so much for your time today, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Absolutely great. Thanks, Gordon. Really fascinating to get an insight into the scale, the sheer scale of this dam. You mentioned nearly 600,000 assets. Could you just elaborate on the type of assets? I know obviously photography is a key one. Do you have assets that you are building just for social media? Do you have video assets? How complex is the asset type within that dam?
So photography is still our biggest type of asset, and then we break photography down into different subtypes. So hotel photography is our biggest, but we also have photography for all of our different brands. Lifestyle photography, destination photography is a big thing that we focus on. Video is something that we're starting to get more serious about. I think in our industry in particular, people love to see videos of the hotels that they're staying at. And actually, it does slightly depend on the brand as well. So our kind of higher end luxury brands, the range of assets is more complicated when you consider photography, video, think about things like menus, PDFs of what's available at the restaurants, collateral. Towards the sort of more simple side of our hotel brands, it's perhaps mostly just photography.
Yeah, and you mentioned that everybody loves the curated photography collection. This is something I see a lot with clients where people want a quick access point to see the best in breed, really, the best of the best photographs. Could you say what proportion of people go straight to the curated collection as opposed to searching themselves within the dam? How confident are people to just go and try and navigate using keywords and that kind of metadata?
So there's a couple of different methods we have. We have curated collections, and those are kind of static collections. They don't change unless our central asset team says, you know, that image is good enough to be in a collection, let's add it to a collection. The other feature that we have is the concept of a saved search. So if you are in, say, the spa team, you can set up a saved search in the dam that says, show me all photographs that are tagged as spa and meet these criteria. So that search will kind of evolve over time as new assets are added. So some people actually prefer the save search so that they can see what new assets have been added that meet my criteria. Some people prefer the kind of, just show me, like, I know these are the best assets, so I know I can just dip into this collection and get exactly what I need.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. We were talking about user focus, user experience, and that all adds to it. You also mentioned the efficiencies that you have gained from the dam, reduced publishing time of up to 40%, and no more duplicates. I'm sure that's something that rings bells with lots of people here today, the problem of the duplicates. What would you say the kind of benefit has been emotionally for people, knowing that it's a dam they can rely on and not one that they're kind of wasting time and efficiency therefore?
So I think system bloat is a very real thing. Like if you have an asset but you've got 50 different versions of that asset for every conceivable use case, especially some of those more casual users I mentioned. So we have like our power users who use the dam all the time. They know like what a master asset is. But if someone's going in and trying to find, well, I need an image and it's maybe been cropped for a very specific web placement and they download the wrong one, I think it causes issues. So just being able to say, okay, every asset in the dam is the true original file. Everyone knows that they can have confidence to download what they need and not have to worry about, are they downloading it in the right size? Is this for a specific channel? It makes it so much easier for, especially those more casual users who are maybe not in the dam every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned, you know, part of beating the drum is not just corralling people into using it, but actually wanting people to want to use it. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
We've got some great questions from today's audience as well, if we've got a bit more time. Brendan is asking, Gordon, you mentioned that creatives choose assets from your highlights collection for use in marketing collateral. I wonder if you track which assets are used in which campaigns so you can avoid overuse of some assets.
We do. So we actually, I mentioned that we have the concept of a hotel entity in the DAM, so that every image, or if an image is for a hotel is associated to that entity. We do the exact same thing with campaigns. So if we have a new campaign launching this summer, that campaign has all of the assets associated to it, the video, the images, the banners. And then that does allow us to go back and look at previous campaigns. Are we using the same type of creative, or are we actually building something unique? And it also helps us, sometimes we do reuse assets from previous campaigns, so it allows us to go back and quickly say, what was that asset we used in summer of 2020? Let's reuse that. So that entity relationship in the DAM has been really important to drive those efficiencies.
Yeah, that's really insightful. Also a question here, slightly more technical one by Graham. Graham's interested to know how you handle the process of asset rendition, particularly around images. In my experience, it's a tricky area to automate cropping, etc. How do you handle this so users can get good rendition results?
So I'll use web specifically because that's the channel I've got the most experience with. So what happens is a user goes into our CMS and they would then browse for the asset that they're looking for. That calls to the DAM and retrieves the original asset. And then that goes through Akamai Image Manager. And Akamai Image Manager is configured to produce all of the web-specific renditions for banners, grids, lists, any possible shape, size, and permutation of an image on our channel. Akamai automatically crops it. And it uses the center point of the image, and it will say, okay, I need that in a 4:1 ratio, or I need it in a 1:1 ratio. And actually that works, I would say, probably about 90 to 95% of the time. The image looks good. And then in our CMS, we have the ability to go in and override that crop. So maybe if you have a particularly tall building and it's a more landscape image, our team can go in and then manually recrop it, almost like you would in Photoshop, but it's within the CMS, and it allows us to kind of handle those exceptions, but Akamai kind of handles the bulk of the cropping automatically.
Yeah, that's a great solution to have in-house. A slightly related question again around automation from Joe. What kind of AI are you using, if at all, and for what purposes?
So we've started a pilot with a tool called Ocus, and this is to look at the quality of an image. So it's looking at certain technical aspects of the image, like how well is it lit and the sizing and things like that, but it also is able to recognize what's in an image. So we have, for all of our brands, we have certain brand standards about what should and shouldn't be in a room, and it can help us kind of quality score, like how compliant is that image standards. So like I said, it's a pilot at the moment. We're piloting the technology to sort of prove, does it work, and is it worthwhile implementing? But the kind of early signs are quite positive, and it's something that we're quite excited about, because I think it's another one of those big efficiency wins for our team.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's going to impact on lots of businesses and organizations here today. How can we leverage AI? How can we also kind of tame it? So you mentioned that change will never really be done, and I think this is something that does resonate with a lot of people working in DAM. We've got a great question by Brian here. What challenges do you face in updating and introducing processes and workflows around the technology to ensure that the DAM strategy is a success beyond the working software and hardware? So really, I guess the idea of future-proofing, if you like, the kind of, you know, what's next in your change management, and how can you prepare for that with your existing technology?
Oh, that's a great question.
It is.
Again, it goes back to that point that change management will never really be done. Like I said, we've got so many different teams at Hilton. I guess it's more about understanding the needs of each individual group, and then assessing like how does that technology slot in. And we always think about like people, process, and technology. There's three elements to it. So do we need to change the technology to help that particular team, or actually is it more about a people issue? So do we need to give that team training or resources or help them develop skills that would make them more comfortable with using the DAM, or is it a process issue, like how we actually work across teams? So I know that's a little bit of a waffly answer, but I don't know if there's ever any one answer. It's about kind of assessing each situation and understanding, like, is this technology, process, people, or often a combination of the three?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a perfect answer, because I often feel quite nervous when somebody claims to be able to future-proof anything, because obviously we never know what's around the corner. And I think the people process technology approach, which is kind of commonly used in DAM, is a really good way to go, because it ties in with what you said earlier in your presentation about the importance of understanding people. So if you identify an individual or a team or a division that is struggling with something, often it's just a case of having the right communication channels for them to be able to alert you to that issue, and then using some technological or a process solution that you can easily implement. And just, I was really interested to hear, and I'd love you to just reiterate, if you don't mind, with regards to your metadata model and the power that this has. You said for the travel agencies to actually score your brand based on, I think you said, the number of assets and presumably the richness of the metadata, to give you a better ranking within the customer search engine experience. So could you just, it'd be lovely to hear you recap on that, because I think that's quite a kind of meaty takeaway for everybody to understand the impact of metadata on performance, out there in the real world experience.
Yeah, exactly. So some of the bigger online travel agents give a scorecard for every hotel, not just Hilton brands, but like all the brands that are available on those sites. And to do that, they first of all count the number of images that we're sending them, and then look at the metadata to say, okay, this hotel says it has 4 restaurants, a spa, and 4 meeting rooms, but we only see 1 restaurant image and 0 spa images. So that impacts on your overall quality score. So that's a really good bit of data. And then we can then look at, for that hotel, okay, they say they have all of these things, but we're missing half of it. We don't have images for half of it. That then allows us to work with partners to go back to the hotel and say, okay, currently your score on this channel is only 50%, which means it's having an impact on how far up the search rankings you see. We recommend that you get a photographer, take some photographs of these features or facilities that are missing and send them in to us, and then that increases their overall quality score. So that's something that we've been working on diligently over the last sort of 3 to 4 years now. And like I said, the metadata has really been key in that, because it's given us the data and insight we need to go back to the hotels and say, here's what you need to do. And it's had a real commercial impact, because the higher up the hotel is in these search results on these online travel agencies, the more likely people are to book. So great example of something like metadata, which we think of as quite a techie thing, actually having a kind of real world commercial impact for our business.
Yeah, well, I'm a fan of metadata, and I love to hear that. And I think it does tie in with the quote, teaching is the art of sharing, not just what you know, but what you don't know. Metadata can often tell you what you don't know. It can identify where the gaps are, because it's easy for you to find in your DAM. And as you say, that enables you to create stronger relationships with your partners, with your creative teams, and ultimately fill in all of those gaps. And it was a great presentation to start the session with today's event. I've actually been looking at holidays recently, booking holidays, and having some of the same kind of gripes that you talk about, where hotels are listing features and facilities. Not having the imagery just makes you think it's going to be a bad experience, I think. So if it says, we have a pool, and you see a photograph of the pool, that it's a lovely pool, or it's a small pool but it's still beautiful area or whatever. If you don't see the photograph at all, you kind of then start to wonder, well, what's in store for me here? So I think seeing the visual material and those assets as a way to kind of drive customers to your product is absolutely essential. And I'm sure that's something that applies to lots of areas of retail as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
we had
sorry, I was just going to say, we've done a lot of research on this and worked with our customer research team, and actually customers trust photography a lot more than they trust words when they're looking at hotels. So it's, I think, what you say, Clemency, it's about building trust with a customer, and if you can show them, then they trust what they see far more than what they read.
Yes, that's right. And we had one final question from Tizani. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Have you already, or are you considering curated collections for video assets, just on the theme of building trust, you know, and kind of making that visual connection? I know you mentioned videos as a growing area. Would you say that by this time next year, you will have a strategy for that in place? Is it something you're actively working to curate?
Yes, we're actively working on our overall video strategy at the moment, both from a creative lens, like what does a great hotel video look like, as well as functionally. So we're actually exploring some media asset management tools to help with our video workflow at Hilton in particular, because at the moment, while we're a fairly mature and evolved DAM practice, believe it or not, with video, there's still a lot of external hard drives, Dropbox file sharing going on. So our next task is to really get into the nitty-gritty of media asset management and how that can do for video at Hilton what we've been able to do with the rest of our digital asset ecosystem.
Well, I'm sure everybody will really look forward to hearing the updates from you over the course of the coming months and the year. Just to say, it's wonderful to see how many people are here from all over the world, Gordon. We've got people from Belfast and Dublin, New York City, Germany, Turkey, Nigeria, Estonia, and of course, a fair few people in London and Edinburgh. So a lot of well-traveled people, I'm sure, who will be very pleased to have heard your insights from today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone for all your insightful questions. I hope you've come away with some real pearls of wisdom from Gordon. So just to let you know, up next, we will hear from Vodafone's Rachel Singh, and she's going to share not only her insights on implementing a new DAM, but also ways of working across multiple teams and markets. So please don't forget to check out the community feed and let other attendees know that you're online. Thank you, everybody.